at this first ever race of ERA. Very exciting, pioneering, breaking new ground, the first ever all-electric junior single-seater championship. So the race is about to get underway. So before we start talking about the action, let's get straight down to the grid where I think Marieta Evans, the presenter and reporter of this series, is ready to speak to our pole sitter.
Well, Neil, the time has gone. We're about to go racing for the first ever time with Electric Racing Academy, and on pole, a name that nobody is surprised to see at the front. Ellis, after 3 years involved with the project, pole for the first race, what's going through your mind right now?
Well, I'm really excited. You know, it's nice to be in the history books like that, so really looking forward for the lights to go out and to get on racing. I'm super excited. I've been on this journey with ERA for a long time, so to be here on the grid in Zolder is absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Yeah, so Sarah, talk to us a little bit about Ellis and his involvement in this championship. He's been a believer in this from day one.
Yeah, Ellis has been in it from the start since ERA was launched. So I think out of everyone on the grid, he's probably got the most experience with these cars. So it'd be interesting to see from the testing that he's done how he can convert that into the race.
And as we can see, there is one car in the pit lane. Who do we think that is? That looks like Michelangelo Amendola. Yeah, Amendola is in the pit lane, so I think they had to fix something on the car after qualifying, so let's hope he rejoins the back of the pack, which is where he would have started anyway, so maybe choosing to come from the pit lane?
Yeah, I think I spoke to him after qualifying and he said he had a loss of power at the end of the straight, so I think that's possibly why he started from the pit lane, but maybe it's by choice, who knows.
Okay, we can get back down to the grid. Marieta, I think, is along car number 2, which I think is Cameron Hawes. Marieta, go ahead.
Yes, on P2 we have Cameron, who seems to have adapted so well to electric racing. The first time for him driving an electric car. Cameron, what is the thing that has surprised you the most about this car compared to other cars you've driven before?
The instant power and the instant grip is astonishing. There's nothing like it at all. And I think this is the future. It doesn't get better than this, I don't think.
You seem very excited to be driving the Mitsubishi.
Yeah, I really am. It's gonna be fun to see what the others do, and there's a lot of strategy involved. So yeah, I'm just here to have fun. Never mind.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thanks, Marieta. Right in the thick of things down there on the grid. It's a very quiet grid, of course, because the cars are sitting in rest mode, ready to hit the instant torque. Let's talk a little bit about the cars themselves. So the Mitsubishi, as Marieta named it, it's Japanese for honeybee. It's the Dome F110 chassis, which you may recognize from sort of Formula 4 style cars, but it's the first time that chassis has come over here, and it's the first time it's been fitted with its subframe to house the battery. And we can get down to the grid again to talk to P3 on the grid with Marieta.
Milan, you have enough experience with the car and enough experience in this racetrack to feel very confident ahead of the race, don't you?
Yeah, I feel very confident. Yeah, this is my home circuit, so I've driven here a lot. It's gonna be a big challenge. Yeah, with battery and motor temperature, and yeah, it's gonna be a difficult race, but fun, and hope I can win.
Thank you very much. Good luck, Milan.
Thanks, Marieta. So getting insights from these guys down there. So Milan there is Belgian. He's 19 years old. But for a lot of these guys, apart from Ellis out the front, Ellis is only 16. We spoke to Cameron, who's 17. So these are the very beginning of their racing careers, coming from karting and other disciplines. But how important is it for them to get this step up and do something brand new and historic today?
Yeah, I think both Ellis and Cameron come from a sim racing background originally. So with their ages as well as the sim racing background, it's important to have a step like this.
And there we go. We can see the second row of the grid. Richard Morris, someone you know very well, here this weekend representing Racing Pride. Bob Stevens and Christian Spellmans in 5 and 6. And then at the back, actually, I think starting from the pit lane will be Michelangelo Amendola. We'll talk more about the drivers and more about the car as we get underway. But it looks like we're getting close to getting clearance to actually start the race, the first ever race. And what a great place to do it, because of course ERA is part of the driving force of Belgian Motorsport Group, and they're based at Zolder. So the perfect place for history to be made with this pioneering, innovative, all-electric, single-seater junior racing series. So the safety car pulls away so these drivers can start their formation lap. There's a hand up there from Ellis.
That's Ellis, I think, yeah.
Wonder if he's got an issue with the car. Yellow flag waved. So they haven't pulled away behind the safety car, and that's because I think Ellis Spiezia put his hand up, which is the international symbol for I've got a problem. Someone come and help me.
Yeah. I think he needs to start waving his arms in the air.
But I know you haven't driven electric racing cars before, but from what you've gathered this weekend and your previous experience, just how different to an internal combustion engine car are these things to drive?
Yeah, I've driven a few electrical road cars, just on the road, not on a track, unfortunately. But it's the power difference. You've got the immediate power there, which compared to a combustion engine, it's a bit more progressive. So, like I said before, I would love to try one of these cars and compare it to something like the F4 car.
No, I think the more times you say that, I think the more likely it is that you're going to get a chance to drive one of these.
I'm trying to convince that.
And there's so that's car number 8, Bob Stevens there, which is, and the marshal's doing what they're supposed to do, because of course these are electric cars, so they have special procedures in case the battery is live. So most of the cars made it safely off the grid for their formation lap, but Bob Stevens, it looks like he starts to move then. So complicated things to get started, and Bob Stevens does pull away to join the back of the pack for his formation lap. So talk us through what they're doing here. We see weaving a lot in traditional combustion engine motorsport. Is it the same deal in terms of getting temperature into the car? How does it work?
I think you've still got to weave because you need to try and get some temperature in the tyres. Also the use of the brakes, that will generate heat in the tyres as well. So it's just trying to find the balance, not to do too much weaving, to use too much energy in these cars. So like you can see, some are going crazy. Maybe they're going to go for a crazy start and try and gain positions, and the others are probably trying to preserve some energy.
And I think it was Cameron at the front of the grid. No, it was Milan Delight who was saying that there's a lot of strategy here. So as I understand it, the race itself will be 15 minutes plus 1 lap, but they do need to conserve energy. There's no regen. These cars are capable of regen, but because a lot of these drivers are driving these for the first time this weekend, it was decided it was too complicated as an added factor to force them to regen power back into the battery. So in terms of the strategy, what have you gathered from speaking to the drivers in terms of how much they have to save, or can they just push flat out for 15 minutes?
To be honest, they weren't giving much away because they're all under one awning. Obviously, they're all within that car confined space, so I don't think they wanted to give too much away, to be honest.
That's the car of Richard Morris, stopped on the track.
I think he had issues before they went to the grid and getting the car going. The 12-volt battery charges, well, it manages the steering wheel, and it hadn't charged properly, so I'm not sure if there's an issue there.
Okay, well, he's going again, because it's a complicated procedure to restart the car. That's the point, is if it stops, you have to do loads of things to make sure it's safe, and then loads of things to make sure it can go again. So it's not just like turning the key in the ignition.
No, it takes a little while to load as well.
Yeah, because it's so software driven as well. And one of the key things, the innovative things about ERA is that it has levels of telemetry that normally the data sharing between the car and the pit wall, and between the teams and the drivers and the engineers, it's not been seen really outside of Formula One. It's the first time it's properly been developed for a junior series.
Yeah, so this weekend they have no car-to-engineer communication, which would in the future be super helpful, and I know they do plan to do that. But like I say, the live telemetry on the pit wall is super helpful for the mechanics and engineers that are in the pits.
So this looks like it's a real shame for Richard Morris. He's still creeping to a halt, stopping and starting, while the front row of the grid starts to assemble. So we'll have to see what will happen with the number 2 car of Richard Morris before we can get racing underway. Because of course, if it cannot make its way to the grid, it will have to clear the track. And that'll be a disaster for Richard. You know Richard really well. How will he be feeling? He's, you know, put in all the effort to get here this weekend. In fact, you know, his story was his luggage got lost. He didn't have his race suit and his helmet and even his contact lenses. So he's kind of overcome several challenges even to just get on the grid, and now this has happened for him.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster of a week for him, hasn't it? Yeah, you know, as any driver, you know, he was a guest appearance this weekend, you know, to help them develop the car and have another driver on the grid. So. But any driver that comes to race always wants to do well and win, so yeah, it'll be a bit gutted right now.
Well, let's hope whatever the issue was, they can get it fixed, because we're going for a second formation lap. The first formation lap was behind the safety car. This one is so that they can actually stretch their legs a little bit, and then they will pull up to the grid and racing will get underway. So yeah, you're joining us in Zolder. Now, I know that you've raced at Zolder in W Series. Talk to us about this track, because it's so special to be here. It's got so much history, but to actually drive it, what's it like?
It's a proper track, a proper classic track. I think it's probably up there with one of my favorite tracks I've raced at. Like I say, I raced here in 2019, the first season of the W Series. It was a little bit scary for the first few laps, just because if you go off the track, you've got no runoff, nowhere to go. It's pretty much straight into a barrier. But the first sector is great, a fast first sector, and then you've really got to be quite technical through the chicanes in a Formula car. You can't use all of the curb because it upsets the car too much. So you've really got to be very precise with the steering inputs to get the best out of the chicanes.
And as you mentioned when we were setting up the show, quite a few of these drivers, teenagers, have come from a sim racing background. And actually Cameron Hawes, who is P2 on the grid, learned the track through competitive sim racing. But the thing he said the first time he actually drove the Mitsubishi, the ERA car, around here, is what shocked him was there are several sectors where there are bumps, but also the sort of 0G you get over the blind crest.
Yeah, sim racing is great, in my opinion, for us racing drivers to learn tracks. But in terms of feel, you're never going to feel what it's actually like to be out on the circuit. So it's always a bigger step when you actually get the chance to drive the track for real.
Okay, that's good. We're just hearing from race control that the race time has been shortened. 12 minutes plus 1 lap is now the race time, so it's going to be a sprint. I mean, this is going to be exciting because maybe they can push a little bit more if they've got a little bit more juice in them.
See them push a bit more off the start. Maybe for the first 2 laps, they might settle down for a couple of laps and then push again at the end. That was the way that I would approach it, but yeah, we'll see how these guys.
But it is, I mean, when they were doing qualifying, they were coming in at around 1 minute 50s, just under 2 minutes per lap at the quickest laps. So, you know, a 12-minute race is 6 laps. And that's a chance to really, you know, battle and stretch your legs.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see how they get off the start line. I don't think any of them have done an actual start. I think 2, maybe 3 of them done a practice start from the pit lane. But other than that, they've not done any actual starts. So that'll be interesting to see how they get off that line.
Yeah, it's all new to everyone, apart from Ellis, who's had a lot of time in the car. But that's the beauty of this, is that the cars ran in... we saw the car on track in Po at round 1 of each. Of course, this is the support class to FIA ETCR, the E-Touring Car World Cup. And we saw cars running in Budapest, and we saw more cars running in Jarama last week, but this is the first official race. So as you say, there's lots for everyone organizationally and from the drivers to contend with. And if they've never done a practice start, then we're about to witness all of that power, you know, 130 kilowatts on a very light car, like only 690 kilograms, including the driver. So super light and super fast, top speed of 210 kilometers per hour. So it looks like the grid is assembled. We are missing Richard Morris from the second row of the grid. And I think that was the 5-minute board going up there. I don't know. I couldn't see quite if that was 5.
5 seconds.
Oh, no. We'll go. Lights are out. And we're going. We're racing. So maybe it was 5 seconds. Yes. We are racing and everyone is away cleanly. So we didn't see any tyre smoke or wheel spin. So clearly the torque being delivered straight down into the asphalt. And already Cameron Hawes has gone for a move around the outside. of Elliot Spezia into turn 1. A very bold move there from Cameron. He clearly got a good start. Was it all about the start, or is he being a little bit brave there?
I think, having spoken to Cameron before the race, his original plan was to sit behind until the end of the race. So, I don't know, we'll see if he swaps back so he can preserve some energy.
But Cameron is someone who's got a lot of ambition. He comes from the Isle of Man, but he races under a French license. And he has done a lot of karting. His family are from a rallying background, and he definitely took a risk of going sideways into turn 1, but it paid off. Now, talk us through the curbs. Now, often that car, the fourth car there, really went over that curve.
Wasn't it? Yeah, those curbs in that chicane for single-seaters and the ride height that we would like to run, they just don't work.
So you just have to be really careful not to hit those curbs. You can see Cameron is pushing, is a little bit twitchy coming out, but he seems to have adapted well to this car because, you know, a lesser driver would easily spin out at that point when you lose a little bit of control.
Yeah, it's trying to find the limit of where the tyres are as well, because they won't have much temperatures in the tyres right now. So it's being confident as a driver to know how far you can push the car with the current tyre temperature.
So Cameron Horse leads from Ellis Spezia, and then behind is Milan de Leite. Christian Spellmans, who's currently in 4th, the one who I think went hard over that curb, got a little bit of air. He's actually one of the ERA tech crew, so he knows the cars very well. He's helped to build them and to engineer them, so he's getting a chance to drive the car. Then in 5th, it's Bob Stevens, and then Michelangelo Amendola is bringing up the rear. So there's a retake.
Nice clean exit from the last corner, allowed in that female KPH, by the looks of it down the main straight. Nice move into turn 1.
So Ellis does an overtake and retakes first position. And do you think this is part of Cameron Hoare's strategy, like you said, that he might hold back? Oh no, he's not holding back at all.
I don't think any racing driver can really hold back in that situation.
This is a great battle for first place, and of course, while they battle between them, you can see 3rd place of Milan de Leite, who knows this circuit extremely well. The Belgian driver is ready to pick the bones out of anything he can get from these two squabbling out front. So this is fantastic racing from the front 4.
I think Milan is probably going to sit there, let them squabble and pick up the pieces. I think bad luck is then have them a little bit of space.
Cameron retakes the lead. So Hordes versus Spezia is the battle to watch. And as you say, Milan de Leite and Christian Spellmans just tuck in behind them. And how much, one of the things the drivers have been saying to me is that it's incredible how much downforce means you can go super fast through these corners and you just have loads of aero grip.
Yeah, speaking to Richard, he said that through the fast corners especially, Richard is used to having aero anyway, so he's used to trusting the car and pushing it to its limits. But for the likes of Cameron, I haven't got an aero background. He's really done well to adapt to the car so quickly this weekend.
And we're seeing a great battle here. The sort of front 4 barely separated by a second. It's like less than 6.4 seconds separating the front. 0.6. There's like 2 seconds separating the front 4, which is brilliant to see. But these two out front are having a great scrap, exchanging the lead. That's got to be 6-7 times so far they've exchanged the lead.
They're having a good little battle there. It'd be interesting to see how much energy they're using doing that, to see if they do drop off towards the end of the race.
So a little word about Ellis Spezia. Comes from Hoboken, New Jersey, 16 years old. His racing hero is Fangio, and he's currently in 2nd place, but we can see that changing again pretty quickly. Meanwhile, Michelangelo Amendola has set the timing screen alight with some purple sectors, so we can probably see him joining the fight sometime very soon. Currently he's 8 seconds back, but he is putting in some very good lap times. And these are the first proper flying laps he's actually done in this car, because he hasn't had this car at full power yet at all this weekend.
No, he said after qualifying he had a loss of power on the straights, so this is, like I said, the first time he's really been able to give it the max. So yeah, hopefully he can catch on to the guys in front.
Yeah, he's setting some great sectors. Quickest sector 1 so far of the race for Michelangelo Amendola. And quickest, fastest lap so far for Michelangelo as well. So he's on the attack. Talking of which, Ellis Spiezia goes around the outside to get the inside through this chicane section. Coming down the back straight here. The great thing about Zolder, which I love, is that here in the hot zone in the paddock, you're directly in between the start-finish straight and the back straight, and you can hear everything going both ways, and it's very exciting. You feel very close to the racing. There's a move there. Christian Spellmans is going for a move side by side down the straight. Christian Spellmans gets himself up into second place. Meanwhile, we seem to have Ellis Spiezia seems to have dropped back to fourth, so maybe he's conserving at the moment.
Possibly. I've seen Michelangelo's just moved up a place as well, I think. So I think he's catching the back of the guys now if they keep on battling. He's definitely putting in much faster laps than they are right now.
Yeah, speaking to Michelangelo, his experience has mainly been the MRF Formula 3 Challenge in the Middle East, and then didn't do a lot of driving during COVID and has been waiting for his opportunity, and he sees this as his opportunity to announce himself on the world stage, and he's clearly doing that by setting purple sectors every lap after lap. So the lead has changed. Cameron Hawes is now in front. Milan Delate in second. Ellis Spiezia trying to retake second place, and he does. Does he get it? Oof, he had to back out of that one, but in the meantime, there's a little bit of contact there.
I think
so
that
Milan
was
Delate.
Milan, yeah.
So Milan getting a little bit punchy. Again, the circuit he knows really well, and Milan has driven this car. He drove the car in Budapest and in Jarama, and he's worked on the car a little bit himself as a mechanic, and he's not had a huge amount of electric single-seaters before, but he's had 2 years of Formula Ford, and he's driven tin tops as well. So a lot of track experience for a 19-year-old, but of course, what would it mean to him to win in Belgium at the first ever event of ERA? But he looks
it's always good to win on a home track, right?
Well, it looks like he's got a challenge again from Ellis Spiezia and Cameron Hawes. I'm not going to let him run away with this. So this front four is still locked in a battle. It's very hard to predict, with 4 minutes and 1 lap to go, how this will end up, especially as they have to conserve energy. So at some point, they're going to have to stop pushing and stop fighting and put their thinking hats on. And that's
interesting to see how much the toes making a difference, actually. Down the main straight especially, clearly they can get some kind of toe to be able to move, some sort of move into turn one.
So actually the slipstreaming is looking like it's a big thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously the exit from the last corner will make a bit of difference as well at the end of the straight, but I think by the looks of it, they seem to be getting a little bit of a toe down the straight as well.
That's a great shot as they come up over the brow of that hill. Cameron Hawes pulls to the outside, but he gets the defensive move there of Ellis Spiezia down the back straight as they come towards Jackie X chicane and the start-finish straight. So Ellis Spiezia has got himself back in front. So maybe he did drop back a little bit to save some battery. Just to recap, they're not doing regen, so they do have to conserve. So this is as much a race of flat-out racing as it is a race of strategy to make sure they can make it to the end of the race with enough juice to take the podium and get the car into Parc Fermé.
They've got a little bit of a gap between them and now, so not sure if this is the energy difference between the cars or maybe the guys behind are preserving a little bit for the last lap. But
so maybe Ellis Spiezia now feels that with 2.5 minutes and 1 lap to go, he can start to stretch his legs a little bit. Maybe he thinks he's got enough battery to actually dominate this race from the front. Cameron Hawes in second place. That's, I think, Beth Georgiou, the founder of the championship. Very proud moment for her and her team. They've been working on this for, the best part of 4 years. I mean, you know a little bit about the background of this. It's not easy to get a race series underway, especially an electric racing series, and especially with COVID for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's never easy to start up a new championship across any form of motorsport, so that's done a fantastic job to finally get to a race weekend.
And we definitely are racing. We're seeing some great action here. Ellis Spiezia leads from Cameron Hawes. Milan Delight, the local driver, is in third. That could be the podium. They look like they're starting to spread out a little bit in formation. Christian Spelmans, another Belgian driver, is behind them. And then it's Bob Stevens and Michelangelo Amendola bringing up places 5 and 6. And of course, Richard Morris. We haven't seen Richard. I don't know if he started. It doesn't look like he's set a lap time, so
No, I
real
think he
shame.
got pulled off to the
He's there.
side.
We can see him there. Okay. So he's still showing on the timing board as 5 laps down, but basically he didn't complete. He didn't get off the start line. So a shame for Richard Morris, but great to have him and you here this weekend representing Racing Pride. So Ellis Spiezia, we're down into the last minute, and then after that, when they cross the start-finish line, there'll be one more lap. So is Cameron Hawes planning a final attack, do you think?
Yeah, he's dropped back another kind of half a second or so now, so maybe he's trying to plan that kind of last lap dash. Either that or he's definitely started to lose power.
And how tricky is it? I mean, I know that W Series isn't an electric racing series, but how tricky is it to manage the strategy side of racing, the tyres and everything else for young guys like this, teenagers, who just want to get in a car and race it as fast as they can from start to finish?
Yeah, everyone would love to get in the car and do a purple sectors every single lap, but it's really about tyre management and also looking after the car as well, which is something these guys all learn as they do lap after lap.
Cameron Hawes has gone for the move on Ellis Spiezia, as Sarah predicted. He was holding back to do a last lap dash, so we're nearly into that last lap. So Cameron Hawes has retaken the lead, and Ellis Spiezia thought he had this in the bag. So what can Ellis do for the last 5 kilometers of this race as they come towards the end of the penultimate lap, and the clock ticks down to 0, and the next thing that happened will be the checkered flag the next time they cross the start-finish straight. So these two really have stretched the lead ahead of Milan Delight.
Yeah, they've got a good gap there. It'd be interesting to see. I think Ellis will probably, I was going to say hang on right till the end of the lap, but he's clearly trying to go full attack.
Well, he went for the kind of 3-way undercut there, outside, inside, outside, but it didn't pay off, and it looks like it's lost him a bit of
I think
pace.
he's lost quite a lot of time from that there. I would have hung on to Oz right at the end of the lap, but yeah, that's definitely cost him, I think, now.
And he's also put himself in the clutches of Milan Delight, who would love to move up a step on the podium here at home in Belgium. So a very exciting close to this race, and a little bit twitchy there from Ellis Spiezia. He's got to now, having been looking forwards to try and attack Cameron Hawes, he's now got to look in his side mirrors because they are full of that number 5 car of Milan Delight. Great shots from the FPV drone following these cars around. And what a great circuit this is. It's absolutely beautiful. So they cross the finish line, which means this is the final lap.
He's got a little bit of a gap going there. I don't know if Ellis is going to preserve a little bit at the start of this lap to try and catch up towards the end. But yeah, he's got a nice little cushion there, P1.
It's been hard to see if and when they have been conserving, because if they have, they've disguised it very well, because these boys look like they've been racing non-stop, flat out from start to finish. So this is the crucial time as to whether they will make it to the finish line, take the checkered flag. So we're into the final lap. And of course, this first sector is probably the easiest to overtake on, and after this, there won't be many opportunities.
No, we've got the opportunities going into the chicane, just like that. Milan straight up the inside. Nice and aggressive overtake up the inside there, which I think now they're the only owner taking opportunities for the rest of the lap.
Wow, so a very, very smart move there from someone who knows this circuit very well, and that leaves Ellis Spiezia having to make up 2 places if he wants to take a maiden win, but also hunting down Milan. But Milan now looks hungry to get up onto the back of Cameron Hawes. Can Milan come from 3rd to take the win in the final sector of this race? But tricky to overtake anywhere else on this circuit, so he's got to use all of his racecraft, and these two will definitely have put in many hundreds of hours on this track in the sim.
Yeah, he's got 2 big braking zones left, so maybe he'll catch a little bit up there. One more overtaking opportunity really into the final part of the lap.
Well, this is exciting stuff as we come towards the end of the first ever ERA race. Cameron Hawes leads, but Milan de Leijt, local driver, is looking to stamp his authority at home in Belgium. Is he going to pull off a final move? They're coming towards the checkered flag. And Cameron... wow.
Wow.
Cameron Hawes celebrates the win in the car, the first ever race winner of the ERA, Cameron Hawes, but he was under pressure to the last second. Only 0.05 of a second was the gap between Cameron Hawes and Milan de Leijt, who did use the slipstream. He got a good tow down the start-finish straight and nearly made the overtake work.
Yeah, I think it maybe preserved a bit more energy to be able to hit the power a little bit harder coming out the last corner there. Almost got it. That was a great finish, great finish.
And what we've just noticed on the timing screen as well is that Bob Stevens appears to have overtaken Ellis Spiezia for third. So I don't know what happened to Ellis. Maybe he ran out of battery towards the end of that lap, and Bob Stevens gets himself up onto the podium.
That's a surprising finish for me. I thought Ellis, with the amount of time he had in the car, I would have put him definitely on a podium position.
It looks like the last sector he dropped about 10 seconds, and whether there was an issue or whether he, hadn't managed his power properly, but that looks like that's probably where he lost it, in that last sector. But take nothing away from Cameron Hawes, a 17-year-old, grew up on the Isle of Man, lives in France, moved to France at 11, and all of his racing background is in French championships. And again, he's an example of how you can transition from sim racing to the real thing and deliver. He said he'd never driven a car before. The second he got into a car, he knew how it worked and he knew how to race it because of sim racing. So proving that there is a definite through line. So let's have a look at how that race ended up. Oh, that's a replay of
the retake, I think it was.
Yeah. So that's Cameron Hawes taking the lead, which from that point on he did not relinquish. But then he came under pressure from Milan de Leijt towards the closing stages of the race, but they got very close to each other. They're not scared of racing sort of wheel to wheel, are they?
No, I know that Milan is used to, obviously with his Formula 4 background, he'll be used to racing close in single-seaters. Cameron may be obviously used to the tin tops a little bit more where Robin's racing. You can't quite do that in the Formula class. But no, very, very good close battles.
And he could see that he'd done enough as he crossed the finish line and took the checkered flag. And he looks like he's having quite an emotional experience there in the car, because you know what it's like to win a race. There's a lot going through your mind. A lot has gone into just getting you into the race car in the first place, let alone actually delivering a race. So huge congratulations to Cameron. Give us an idea of what's going through his mind right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone through a lot this weekend. He'd never driven the car before this weekend. So to come in and qualify P2 and then go on to win the race in front of drivers that have done more laps than he has in that car. So yeah, he'll be ecstatic, I can imagine.
And also in this paddock, we're the support race for FIA ETCR. So confirmation then, the Cameron Hawes wins. Milan de Leijt is second. Bob Stevens, in the last minute, gets himself up into third place on the podium. Ellis Spiezia is fourth. Michelangelo Amendola is fifth. Christian Spellmans is sixth. And Richard Morris, who did not start, still classifies as seventh. So yeah, as you were saying, Cameron will be very happy.
Extremely happy, yeah. Any driver is always going to be happy to win a race, but to have never driven the car before, that's a special win.
And here in the as a support race to FIA ETCR, you're in front of a paddock full of manufacturers, professional racing drivers. A very emotional moment for Cameron. A big outpouring there. Let's listen in. Can't quite believe it.
There's Dad.
Well done.
Wow. Wow, it's got me, that has. Let's see if he can compose himself to get out of the car, helmet off, and speak to Marieta, who's first on the scene. to speak to our first ever winner of an ERA championship race. Oh, that's emotional stuff there. Really, really special to see. Really special to see. So Cameron Hawes from the Isle of Man, 17 years old, steps into an electric single-seater junior racing car for the first time yesterday, wins the race today. Unbelievable story. And here at Zolder as well, against a field which included 3 Belgians, all of whom would have liked to win the race.
He was confident in himself coming into this weekend, having spoken to him a few times. So yeah.
It looks like Cameron has composed himself enough to speak to Marieta Evans, who's standing there, to speak to him.
But I think the one about to cry is me now, Cameron. We're so emotional. And you told us yesterday, I think I can be competitive, but did you really expect to win? I mean, this is your first weekend with this car.
I don't know what happened. I really don't. The car felt amazing. I'd like to thank the team. I'd like to thank Path, everyone. It's been an amazing weekend. The car felt brilliant, and the drivers as well are top notch. It's been an amazing weekend, and that was an amazing race.
What does this victory mean for you and for your dad as well?
We were struggling to get to racing next year, so this is more of a boost, I think, a confident boost, and a boost in general. It's just so good to be fighting alongside guys like this who are in cars like these. It's the future, and it's just, I haven't got the words. It's amazing. Thank you to everybody here, and thank you to the ERA team for sorting the cars out, and also Frank here. Yeah.
Congratulations, you proved you deserve to be here. Thank you very much.
Wow, so it just goes to show what it means. You know, people, these like you must have gone through, getting the budget together, getting the sponsors together, just everything that needs to happen to make racing happen. And it's tricky for these guys. They need to sort of appear on a world stage to show what they can do, and Cameron has done that, as have the rest of this field. It was a good, clean racing, and the whole field was within, 10 seconds of each other, ultimately. Let's hear from Milan, who is with Marieta.
Milan, this was such an exciting race because there was a moment where it looked like 4 of you could take victory. How was it for you?
Yeah, what an amazing race. It was so difficult with the energy, and but fun race. We had a lot of battles. Congrats, mate. Yeah, what a fun race. Sad that Alice was at the back, but yeah, it was real fun.
Thank you very much, Milan.
So I don't think any of them can actually believe that just happened, that not only did it actually happen for real, but they were genuinely racing each other, from start to finish. There is Ellis, still got the helmet on, so clearly
well done, mate.
A little bit disappointed. Cameron very sportingly giving him his congratulations. It'll be good to see if we can get a word with Ellis to see what happened to him. Bob Stevens. Bob Stevens, came out of nowhere, it seems, to come third. So let's get the story from Marieta.
Bob, can you believe it that you made it to the podium? I mean, talk us through that race.
No, I didn't believe it. I thought in the beginning I was saving too much energy. I thought, okay, let's save in the beginning and catch them in the end. But I saw them driving away and oh no, it's never going to work. But then in the end, they all started to come to me, and the photo finish at the end with P3. Yeah, awesome. Awesome.
So what can you tell us about the way in which you managed to adapt to this electric car? Because you had never done electric car before.
No, I haven't done even either Formula cars or electric cars. But yeah, they told me managing the temperatures is the most important thing. So I tried to do it in the beginning and have something left for the end. Yeah, it worked out. Yeah.
Congratulations, very special. Also, this is also your home racetrack. Thank you very much.
So yes, thank you very much, Marieta. That is Bob Stevens, the oldest of the drivers, I think, this weekend. So showing the maturity in the end, the sort of tortoise versus the hare. He used the strategy to perfection. So very, very good and superb. So your final thoughts, Sarah. We've just witnessed history in the making, pioneering. I know you want to drive one, but what did you think of the racing in ERA?
Yeah, I thought the racing was great. I thought there might be a few more people that held out back at the start to preserve their energy for the end, but they didn't show it if that's what they did. They provided some really good close racing, which was great to see.
Okay, very good. Well, that was the first ever ERA Championship race here in Zolder. Thanks very much for joining us. There will be more, and of course there will be a podium. There will be champagne, I'm sure, sprayed, if that's allowed. If they're under 18, we'll let it happen. But thank you very much for watching. Thanks to Sarah, thanks to the whole team. But until next time, this has been ERA Championship. Goodbye.